kinds of people here in the room today for Fridays with the Finest. Chief's moved way over. I'm going to have to adjust the cameras as we move on into the show because 1, 2, 3, 6 people, Chief.
Yeah.
6 people in the room with us today.
That's good.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
We're going to solve all the problems of the world today, aren't we?
Well, yeah, I think that's what we're aiming to do here.
Okay. Let me move some of my food out of your way.
I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, so it is a big month here in the city of Elgin, and not only in the city of Elgin, but everywhere with Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I guess that's the focus of today's conversation, right?
Yes. So thank you. I brought some ladies on with me today to talk everything about domestic violence awareness. And also it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So if you get a chance, we installed some lights in front of the police department. I'm really excited about this because it's just our project is complete. We've had a lot of construction in front of the police department. And last night they turned the lights on, so we're able to change the lights. So one side of the police department is purple for Domestic Violence Awareness Month and to honor this month, and the other side is pink for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So if you're able to drive by the police station when it's still dark out and take a look at it, so every month we're going to be changing these lights to keep that community engagement going, and it's something, it's a very visible display of our support and the things that we do. So, these little things, they do matter, So I received a text this morning from someone who's a breast cancer survivor, and they showed me a picture and said, thank you. And so I think like those little things matter. People want to say, well, it's just lights. What's the big deal? But it is a big deal, right? In the big scheme of things. So, so I wanted to make sure that people know what our initiatives are at the police department. We do it every year. So I brought a bunch of ladies on today to talk everything domestic violence awareness. Yeah. I do have some stats and some information, but I want to start out and really honor the time here because they are here. So thank you all ladies for being here. And we start with the one and only Joanne. Everybody knows Joanne.
Joanne's been here many times.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And she just needs a microphone. We're going to have to pass that mic around today.
Well, I'm going to make it quick and try not to get your hand again. Good morning, Elgin. Good morning, Elgin. We're just so pleased to be here again to just bring some awareness to domestic violence. And it's a lot of us, because it takes a lot of us to do what we do. We have one of our partners here from the Community Crisis Center, and we at the Elgin Police Department, we reach out to everyone, but we cannot reach out to anyone unless the community help us reach out to them. Because together we are better than we are separate. And if systematically our clients have so many barriers, and only we working together can make that change. So given that, I have nothing else to say about that. And I will let everybody else introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pull that microphone over to you. We're going to have to keep on using rotating mics here today. Hi.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. My name is Cindy Raices, and I'm one of the social workers at the Social Services Unit.
Hi, Cindy. Passing the microphone along now. Who's next, and who's going to introduce themselves next to us?
Good morning. This is Uzma Husseini from the Community Crisis Center, and I am the Advocacy and Prevention Services.
Okay. Good morning. We know the next person here. She's been here a few times before.
She loves the radio show. Vanessa loves it.
Yeah.
Vanessa Body. I'm with the Elgin Police Department.
Vanessa with the Elgin Police Department, and one more.
And I'm Fabiola. I'm one of the bilingual social workers at the police department.
Okay. So I guess all of these ladies, Chief, work together to do the best we can with a problem that, to me, seems to be growing over the past few years. I mean, it's always been a problem, but since COVID and isolation and things like that, it seems like domestic violence has even become more prevalent and more violent, it seems like, too. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm following the news closer than I used to, but it just seems like I'm reading more and more of these terrible, terrible domestic violence stories.
Yeah, you asked me a couple weeks ago about, you said the kind of same thing that, anecdotally you think that the calls are gone up or they're more violent. So what I want to do is just start off by giving some information and some statistics in terms of what's happening here in Elgin. And then I'll have these ladies talk a little bit about, what do we do? What services are there to offer? And then things for, most importantly, things for people somebody's going to listen to this radio show, hopefully, and this is going to be the nexus to them getting services, getting some help, or getting some information. Because again, people will do what they do in their own time. So all we can do is put the information out there and make sure that it's accessible in terms of services and programs. But you have to talk about it, So let me give a little kind of snippet of what's happening in Elgin. So domestic calls for service historically have been consistent. Most offenders are male and most victims are female in current or former intimate relationships. Both tend to be about 31 to 32 years of age, and the vast majority of the crimes that are committed are domestic batteries and the simple domestic battery. And roughly 1 in 6 calls for service results in an arrest. This information is from 2018 to 2024, so that's kind of just a snippet, and then I'll kind of give a little, because I know you're a numbers person.
Yeah.
So let's talk about calls for service each year. So just to kind of put it in perspective, and I'll start at 2018 because it's important to talk pre-pandemic, right? Because there's a lot of things, societal issues, structures in place that maybe were broken down during that time, which, can impact some of these calls. So 2018, and this is again in Elgin, 2018, 2,542 calls. 2019, 2,522. 2020, here's the spike, 2,765. 2021, 2,533. 2022, a spike again, 2,729. Last year, 2,663. And then year to date, we're at 2,195 calls for service.
Which is right on par.
Yeah, I mean, depending, we have
Pretty
a
much.
couple more months here. And again, as I mentioned, it's important to talk about what's going on and put it into context, knowing that the vast majority, of these crimes involve a former or current intimate relationship, right? So there's a lot of times where we're not able to help or assist because we don't know that, right? That's not happening in the public. People are not calling. So it's important for us to make sure that we acknowledge that and say, this is what we can do if you choose to call us and choose to let us know. So, Joanne, can you talk a little bit about, and we'll just go down the line here, the Social Services Division. You've obviously been at the police department for 30 years.
33.
33,
She's not counting. And
Yeah.
you're going to stay until 35?
40, 40 years.
Yeah, well, yeah. I should have stayed as long as I'm here.
Yeah.
Yes, because I need her. But Joanne, can you talk a little bit about Social Services Division and what you guys do? And then also something that's important for the community to hear in terms of if I'm a domestic victim, in some way it's impacted me, whether I'm a victim, whether I'm a family member, I'm a friend. What advice would you give if I was hesitant to reach out? So each of you ladies, if maybe you want to hit those 2 points.
I think this way. I think that first of all, the social services unit at the police department, we work with and try to grab all the reports that is relevant to domestic violence. Go to court, and one of the key things that we have is 2 bilingual people on our staff. That is just so important in terms of getting the help that people need and get culturally competent around the help that people need as well. So that's, I think, most important. Secondly, I think that because we have the police department, I think it gives people a sense of being more secure with coming to police because we reach out in a different way. Oftentimes victims are afraid to come, and oftentimes they are afraid that the police is not going to help them. And I'm not going to go into the cycle of violence, but oftentimes they have gotten battered by a offender or a partner, and they still want to protect that person.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of nuances that we have to kind of work through to help people get to court. The system is very difficult, and sometimes people just need an advocate to help them even just get through the system. And that's one of the things that Crisis Center as well as the staff at EPT. So if you want to talk a little bit about some of your...
Yeah, just put on the line and talk about what you do, and then what's the message for I'm in that. What can I do? What should I do?
So I think firsthand is if you know somebody that is going through something, be a support to them in some sort of way. Each person that is going through something like this is in a different point. They might be ready to do something about it. They might need more support before they're ready to take that step and call us. So we really are trying to be there in whatever, meet them where they are at the moment. Some people might be ready to go to court and get an order of protection. Other people are still kind of processing what this looks like. What are my options? What could this be? So I'll let some of my other colleagues be able to talk about more.
It's also important to know that when meeting with one of us doesn't automatically mean there's going to be police contact or an arrest. There's laws and there's orders of protections that are civil that we can do, like how Joanne said. They're sometimes still looking to protect the partner legally, but they want to be safe. So there still are options to work with that does not involve police, even if they come to us for that kind of support.
Go ahead, Fabiola.
I would say that although it's frustrating if your sister keeps going back to this relationship, it's still important to support her, because if you don't, she's not going to tell you anything in the future. So whenever she's ready, you might be the person that she goes to. So it's frustrating when it's the 6th time and she's still going back, but it's important that you're there and you're supporting her, because it's very difficult. And like Cindy said, everyone's going to be ready at their own time.
Yeah. No, I guess I'm not sure who answers this question, but that's one of the questions that came to me. Like, if you know either a friend of yours or a relative of yours, whatever, is being battered, for lack of a better word, or whatever, then you maybe want to talk to that person and say, you really should get some help. You really should go and see if you can get some counseling for this or whatever. But how far do you go? How far do you pressure them before you know that person's going to just not even tell you anymore and try to not share the information that's really happening in their relationship with you anymore? That's a fine line right there, isn't it?
It's not so much pressure. It's just being available. Let them know that you are available, and you have to earn some trust, because they're in a relationship that they trust somebody, but that person is beating them up. So here's a new person coming in talking about what's going on with them. And so you really just have to hang in there. And sometimes I know it gets frustrating. It's frustrating to our officers when they keep going out to the same address to deal with the same problem. But there's been times when we have had a contact with a person and they didn't accept they weren't ready right then. 2 or 3 years later, they call. So you just have to be available. Let them know where the services are. Don't say, girl, you got to go get help. You, whomever. You say, here is some help, and let them make the decision themselves, but be there for support. The other piece of that we didn't mention is that a safety plan. Sometimes we work with individuals with a safety plan, meaning that they need a way to get out but not ready yet, but help them plan how that may happen. So that's another thing that we do.
And then from the Community Crisis Center perspective, so first, thank you for being a great partner to us and for being in the community and providing support. So from your perspective, what are some of the things that you might say can help? Because apparently when people, come to you, they're at a point where they need shelter, they need services. So they're at that point, right? But what happens then, while that's going on, and how do people transition from that type of environment, back into a home or back into, their life?
Great questions. And first of all, I want to acknowledge that this work cannot be done without partners like the social service unit and, of course, the local police department, the Elgin Police Department. So we don't live in isolation. It is always a community, a collaborative. And that is one of the keys that we give our clients, the victims, the survivors, the options that, these are all your support, all the support that you have that's out in the community, besides your own support system. And of course, they're coming in, what is their immediate need? I need a roof over my head. I need, a meal, the basic needs. And we'll, of course, take them in. But from there, that's when we provide case management and provide them with all the other services that, information about all the other services that we have. Hook them up with counseling. If it's more of a safety plan, if they have a safety plan, say they did one with, someone else, or we explore that, we'll definitely, they usually hook them up with my team, which is the advocacy team. And my team will meet with them, give them legal options. What are all the legal options? Like, if they don't want to do criminal route, then there is the civil route, as the others mentioned. So giving them that support, allowing them to make that decision. Sometimes it's just time. They just need time. They're in a crisis. They need a roof over their head. They need to just know what they have, and they just need to sit with that information. And sometimes it just, it clicks, and it's like, yeah, I think it's time for me to take the next step. Yeah.
And I think that's what, when Joanne talks about, because, these ladies have been on this show for, I think every year, right? We bring you guys on and talk about it. And one of the things she talks about is like how frustrating it is for, let's say it's your friend or a family member, right? And so this is going on. And this is where the police officers get frustrated, because police officers, most people become police officers because you want to solve a problem. Right, you're very. This is what it is, and this is where we're going. Right, so
you don't want to play the kick the can down the road.
No, you can't really do that.
You
can't really do that with this job. So so it's very frustrating when you're like, okay, well, I've given this person this advice. We've been to this call. Here's what they should just do this, right? And I think this is the part that a lot of people miss. You cannot tell anybody to do something and expect them to listen to you just because you say. That's not how the world operates, right? So, whether it's, we've talked about this with people who are, houseless in their community, right? And then we offer services and we offer a place to stay. And why don't you just take it? And why, because I don't want to. That's it. Just like you have the right to say, you should do this because this will make my life easier because I don't have to see this, endure this, think about this. I don't want to do it. And so you just need to sit with that and call it a day, right? So this is where I think people need to, what Joanne is saying is just let them know you're there, right? And just let them know that you support them. And a lot of times you may hear people tell the same story and then you say, oh my God, like, why doesn't this person go? Like, what is going on? And you can't, that's not the time for judgment or criticism. It's not saying that you can't give a dose of, hard love, right? Or reality, because sometimes people need to hear that. But, to Fabiola's point, if you keep turn away from them, they're not going to tell you what's happening, and you're going to miss the opportunity when one day they say, I'm ready. I'm ready. It's not about what you think or you or anyone. This is now me. So talk a little bit about that, ladies, in terms of in your experience, a person who's a domestic violence victim, the first time that they come to you guys for help or services, how long has that usually been going on? Again, on average, because every case is unique. But in your experience, what is the thing also that makes them come ask for help in your experiences?
I think I'm going to try to hit on two things. Back in the horse and buggy days, when I first started, before the laws changed, and when you said something about pressure and you said, how do you, I had a client and she came in and I don't know if we were supposed to do this, now we did it. So back in the horse and buggy days. So she had come several times and she was, they totally forget what happened. So I went to the text of, can I show her photos of what she looked like when he broke her nose, beat her eyes in and jaw wired? So I went and got the photos from evidence and I showed them to her. She was totally freaked out. And she was like, oh, my God, is that me? So sometimes you have to kind of think out of the box and stay within the parameters is what's, the rules. And, work with clients. But, she still hesitated. But eventually she did do what she needed to do in that relationship. So I think sometimes, we also, like officers, we may get frustrated sometimes knowing that, our client is not moving at our pace. But as Wrmn said, we have to work with where they are. We cannot say, you got to go get this now and do this now. That's not what we need to do. We just need to be there and available and help our officers deal with it. I just brought you this client last week. Well, we were out there again today. So,
We're very impatient.
So that happens. That happens. So, again, it's just being available, helping them through where they are. When they're ready, be there for them, helping them to deal with the system, because oftentimes they do not like to get involved in the system, going to court, and all those things. So, and then trust, because if you're there and you hang in there with them and they start to trust you, you can make some inroads.
9:21 on Fridays with the Finest. Yeah, Vanessa?
I think it's just important to keep the statistic in mind that at least they leave at least 7 times and go back before they actually leave for good. So that's very frustrating for family members. So by the time the 7th time or when they're really ready, they're down to nobody. And that's and if we've built that relationship and have that trust, like Joanne says, they will be able to move with the support that they need.
And hold on, because I know the new stats may say it's 9.
9.
Nine
Wow.
times.
Okay.
So it's actually went up.
Look, okay. 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's give or take.
Yeah, yeah, and as Vanessa said, a lot of bridges have been burned within
Yeah.
the family systems, because families, they get tired of.
We told you, we told you, we
Yeah.
told you. You got all this stuff going on in your life. Yeah. Why do you think it's happening?
Yeah.
You won't listen to us.
Yeah.
And we're done with you because we've tried to tell you. We've told, and you won't listen. So now you created your own bed, basically, right?
That's kind of the narrative.
Yeah.
Which is why it's really important to seek professional help because we're more understanding, we're more knowledgeable. We know the cycles, we know that that's going to continue to happen. That's why we do the safety planning and all the things in between until they're ready.
And they're not going to feel judged
Right.
by us. And the other important thing, too, is oftentimes when kids are involved, helping that whole system, because when kids experience those type of relationships, it is detrimental to them in the long run.
Yeah. One thing, though, I mentioned when you were reading, or I was thinking to myself when you were reading the stats earlier, Chief, is that of every 6 calls, 1 results in an arrest.
Yeah.
So that should give people a little more comfort, I guess, is that just because you might call because you have a problem going on at the house doesn't mean someone's going to jail, because I've heard that a lot over the years. If the cops are coming to your house because there's been a domestic incident take place, someone's going to jail. That's not necessarily true. So you should feel more comfortable in making that call and hoping that it can be worked out by a police officer. I guess talking and negotiating takes place. Arrest is only if it absolutely has to.
Yeah, so in the state of Illinois, it's mandatory arrest if there is signs of, injury, right? So the officer has to establish probable cause and make that determination. You may come into a situation where both people have injuries, and you have to do an investigation in terms of, is that one incident where someone was the aggressor, or is it 2 separate incidents where both were the aggressors? So this is where you have to be smart and do police work, right, and figure that out. But let me give you the stats for year-end domestic battery arrests, so to kind of give it in perspective. So 2018, 452 arrests. 2019, 415. 2020, 428. 2021, 352, which is a dip. 2022, 421. Last year, we ended at 473, and year to date, we're at 398. So, and with a couple more years left, or a couple more months, not years. I think it's important. That's a good point, right? So I think that, a lot of times officers will get called, 2 people are arguing, right? That doesn't necessarily result in arrest. However, those incidents, right, are the precursors to maybe something and leading up to something.
Yeah.
So you still want to offer services. This is what's going on. This is what you can do. And again, you can't, it's very, easy sometimes where people who are not intimately involved in what's going on to give their opinion, right? And people's opinions are vast and wide and sometimes not accurate. And, that's what makes the world go around. However, that's not, our job is to support, to guide, to be resources, to give the right information, to, educate, and then let people know we're here for you if you need it. So we do have a few minutes left before we go. I want to make sure we say a couple important things. So tomorrow, 10 a.m. between City Hall and the Hemmons, we are meeting for our 2nd annual Domestic Violence Awareness Walk. So these ladies have worked very hard to make sure that we do that. Last year was great. We probably had about 80 people maybe for the first year. So
Almost 100, okay.
going to start off, I'll be there making some opening comments. We're going to acknowledge some people, and then we're going to go on a walk to show our support, a visible, very visible support in the community. We're all, if you're coming out, wear purple, and let our community know, our Elgin community know that we are here for you and we support you, and we are here when you need us. Let's go down the line, ladies, please. One last piece of advice, and maybe your contact information, should someone watching this want to reach out.
Joanne Stingley, 847-289-2686. And I've been there for 33 years, and yeah, call me.
Yeah.
Call me. She's
A lot of experience. 847-289.
Joanne, they always call you.
They do. That's good.
289-2626. Is that what you said?
289-2686.
2686. 289-2686 with the 847 area code. Cindy?
Well, my name is Cindy Raices, but for any Spanish speakers as well, if you'd like to call, my number is 847-289-2644, 847-289-2644.
Now for the Community Crisis Center.
Community Crisis Center's hotline, 847-697-2380.
Is there actually, so there are a lot of rooms at the communities. It's a place where someone battered, a victim, can come and actually stay, not just come visit. You actually could stay there if you're having a problem at the house, right?
Absolutely. It is a shelter. It's a community
shelter.
living, but it is a shelter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Vanessa Body, 847-289-2977. Don't be afraid to reach out.
Soy Fabiola. Si hablan español, me pueden marcar al 847-289-2624.
So is there, when you call, they just gave a whole bunch of different phone numbers. So who do you call? I mean, if you're
Whoever you want to call, right?
Yeah.
I mean, whoever, it's like a personality here, right? Who do you think your personality will,
whoever you feel the most comfortable with?
whoever you feel the most comfortable with. We give a wide variety.
Reports come in several ways. Oftentimes, my number is called, and it depends on we disperse it to others, to the staff who's going to be working on a particular thing, but not always. Sometimes people will call Fabi, the Spanish speakers.
Yeah.
They're called Vanessa, and especially people who have had experience with these individuals previously. They will call back to the person that they have worked with previously. And Cindy's number is she replaced another staff, so she may get calls that staff has had previously. So call any of those numbers, and somebody will help you out. Crisis Center hotline, same.
Yeah, we're here 24/7, by the way.
And what was the Crisis Center hotline again?
847-697-2380. It's 24/7.
697-2380 for the crisis hotline. And if you're having a domestic violence incident at the house, then you call 911.
Yes. And so that's all. That's the catch-all. You call 911 or you call our non-emergency number. If it's not an emergency, 847-289-2700. I have people who call me and there's incidents and stuff, and I'll walk down to Joanne and Vanessa, and they see me coming and they're like, right? I said, well, ladies, right? So I mean, I can take it to a point and help to a point, but then I also understand that I'm not the expert, right? And I have wonderful people here and smart people who they're very good at what they do. And so, I've gone down there and said, hey, this is what's going on. Can you reach out to this person? Because I think they might need something, right? And I can't give it. I can give it to a point, but I think it's important, as Joanne said when she started, it takes a community, and that is why all these people are in the room. One, to me personally, thank you, ladies, for what you do and acknowledge the work that you do. I admire the work that you do. It's very hard. I tell Joanne all the time, I could never do your job. Never. I could never do your jobs, right? It's very difficult. It's very, it's a different type of difficult, I guess, right? And you guys do an amazing job, and thank you for your services, and thank you what you do for the Elgin community. So with that, we are right at 9:30. So I hope to see everyone tomorrow, 10 a.m., wear purple, let's walk, let's show our support for the Elgin community, let's show our love and our care. So I hope everyone has a great weekend, too.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Thanks, all of you ladies, for coming in today. All right, there you go. It's Fridays with the Finest. Tomorrow morning behind the Hemmons, behind City Halls, where the walk takes place starting at 10 a.m. Be a few minutes early. That's going to wrap things up for now for Fridays with the Finest. I want to say thanks to Al for saying hi to us this morning, and Brendan and Linda Carter and Wilma all listening and saying hi on YouTube. You're listening to WRMN AM 1410 and WRMN Radio on YouTube. Keep it right here.
My fellow Kane Countyans, I am Anthony Catella, the Republican candidate for Circuit Clerk. This election is important for Kane County as well as our country. Independent, libertarian, and all voters can make a big difference by voting for the right candidate regardless of party. I am a good, decent